Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day we dive into the intersection of technology and business, and indeed our lives and world, and also explore the impact of emerging technologies and the buzzwords that surround them on almost every aspect of our lives. But this show is not just about technology. It's about the real world problems that we're solving. Let's bring it back to what problems are we solving? How are we improving things? And that's one of the reasons I'm delighted to get Mohamed Al Fayed on here. He's a seasoned entrepreneur, the founder of a company called Grubtech. Now, Grubtech is revolutionising the food and beverage industry by providing an end-to-end operating system for omnichannel restaurants and cloud kitchens. And just over 3.5 years old, Grubtech is already transforming the F&B scene in more than 23 different countries. And they're working with heavyweight brands, including the likes of Burger King and so many more. But today, I wanted to learn more about his origin story, the story behind the company, and most importantly, the impact of AI and generative AI on the F&B industry. So we're going to talk today about the benefits of generative AI. What problems are we going to solve in the industry here? And how his team at Grubtech is continually pushing the boundaries of innovation and delivering on those exceptional customer experiences that we all increasingly expect now. So if you're interested in how AI can allow a restaurant to adapt their services to different culture, consumerisms and tastes, and also incorporating ChatGPT for menu optimization, content creation, nutritional value, sustainability goals, and so much more, you're going to love this episode. So buckle up and hold on tight, because today I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Dubai, where we're going to learn, engage and explore the world of AI and technology and its impact on the F&B industry. But enough from me. Let's get Mo onto the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Mohamed Al Fayed. I'm the CEO and one of 3 co-founders of a startup in Dubai called Grubtech. We aim to digitize the F&B economy, and we've built an interesting technology stack that really helps the modern restaurant and cloud kitchen do really, really well in today's economy. So, really happy to be part of this podcast.
And it's a pleasure to have you on here with me today. And I always like to find out more about my guest's origin story. So can you tell me more about your journey as an entrepreneur, the inception of Grubtech, and what were some of the main challenges that you faced early on? I'm going to take you back in time for a moment there. Can you walk me through everything?
Sure. So I'm actually a retailer by profession. I work for big box department stores like the Macy's Inc. guys out in Miami, Florida, New York, and came out to Dubai in early 2008 and joined a company called Altair to help build a merchandise planning organization, which is a fancy word for a bridge between finance and the buyers, how much to buy, what to buy, and where to put what we buy in our stores. I did that for about 7 years, got horrifically bored with my career and wanted to change. And I was lucky, as the organization I was working for was at an inflection point and moving towards brick and mortar, or away from brick and mortar into the digital arena. So I volunteered to start a new company within the organization, and with a great group of people, built an organization called Altair Digital, which gave birth to Bloomingdale's.ae, Mamas and Papas, Gap, and our crown jewel, which is Unas, which is now the region's largest luxury marketplace. So spent the better part of the last 7 years taking brick and mortar operations from just traditional commerce into omnichannel commerce, where you can buy online, return in store, click and collect, and the likes of. And as I said, I did that for about 7 years. And one of my co-founders and my best friends had invested in a cloud kitchen, a term I had never heard of before. And throughout that investment, he leaned on me a couple of times to help with the tech landscape. So I popped into my first cloud kitchen, and my epiphany there was, this is not a restaurant. This is a distribution center for fulfilling food. And as I started to get to know more about the F&B space, started to see more and more of the revenue shifting from brick and mortar or tableside transactions into delivery, mainly fueled by food aggregators like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Talabat, Delivery Hero, the likes of. And these guys were still stuck in the 80s and 90s with their technology. It's a traditional point of sale on the counter. You see the sea of tablets that are pinging during lunch and dinner. Nothing is kind of integrated. All the information is siloed. They really struggle to understand how their business is performing and how they can make better, smarter decisions. So, being the builder that I am, I couldn't get the bug out of my head. And in October of 2019, got together with my two co-founders, and we set up Grubtech with a view that we're going to solve this problem, take a technology leap with the restaurants into providing an omnichannel solution for their customers and making their lives a little easier.
And for anybody listening that just hearing about Grubtech for the very first time, how would you describe it to people listening all over the world? Is it similar to Deliveroo and Uber Eats and things like that, or something completely different?
No, something completely different. So we're kind of the middleman between what you currently have in your restaurant today on the counter, i.e. a point of sale, and the outside world. The outside world could be the kiosk that your customers are ordering from, Uber Eats, pay by QR code on the table, potentially even your own website or Android application or iOS application, and having all of these pieces of technology kind of speak to each other in a seamless manner without you having to have a tech department. So we kind of integrate everything in one box to make movement of information be seamless for you. So you don't have to handle tablets anymore. You don't have to have your menu across multiple platforms. You can just do everything once and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Wow, that's incredibly cool. And I'm curious, as the founder of a platform that is helping to transform the F&B sector with technology, are there any tips for any aspiring entrepreneurs listening who may be looking to launch their first startup in an industry like this? Because it is incredibly competitive, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. And I think one of the biggest learnings that we've had over the last almost 4 years now is, it's one thing to build an amazing product that does a lot, but it's another thing to actually distribute it, i.e. the sales and marketing motion. So I come across a lot of founders that know the problem super well, know what the solution to that problem is from a tech and product perspective, but naturally feels that once they build a great product, their customers will come knocking. That sometimes is the case, but there's a lot of steps that go into getting the customer to understand what their problem is, how your solution fills that need or gap, and then ultimately how to go about buying that product. So my tip is, don't leave the sales and marketing motion till the end. Make sure you think about what you're going to do as far as discussing this problem with your customers, get them over the line, and locking them in as paying customers. It's part and parcel of your ideation stage for your startup.
And here in 2023 on a tech podcast, it seems like there's a law being passed almost that we've got to mention AI. It is dominating conversations everywhere. I've been so many tech conferences this year, and it's a conversation that's dominating everything. So I'm curious, how are you seeing AI altering our experiences, behaviors, and ultimately expectations as customers in the food and beverage industry? Because there's that great saying, isn't it, that the last best experience you have anywhere becomes your next expectation for every future service too. So I'm curious, what are you seeing here?
Absolutely. So, look, we were one of the first to adopt AI as far as hospitality tech companies are concerned. And to be honest with you, it wasn't to jump on the bandwagon of the hype of AI, but we genuinely looked at it as an efficient tool. So first and foremost, we brought it into the organization to assist our engineers. We've got about almost 90 product and engineering teams. And how do we make these 90 guys work as if they're 600 or 900 people, right? So how do we get them to code faster? How do we get them to build test cases for what they code faster? How do they write better products, descriptions, and specs? So we brought it as an internal tooling view rather than an external tooling view where, customers can actually interplay with it. And we did that for about a few months. And mind you, all of this is 6 months old. And we started to see so many other use cases. So one of the first use cases we brought in is, and you've all seen this, you've logged into Uber Eats or Deliveroo or one of Delivery Hero's many subsidiaries, and you saw the same picture, the same title, and the same description of your Caesar salad, And somebody on the other end of that had to write that description, write the title, describe the dish that you're going to order, potentially the calories that it has. And if you've made any substitutions, like, you know what, I'm not a big fan of cheese, so take that out. What is my final calorie count? So we built a menu descriptor for our restaurant community where if they just put in the recipe and hit that little magic button, it will take the recipe and write a very delicious, good sounding description, and bring in the nutritional value of that recipe. So it knows that you've used 100 grams of meat, 10 grams of tomatoes, et cetera, and it can calculate what your carb, fat, and protein macros are. And if you're happy as a human being with what you see on the screen, you can press publish, and that will propagate its way up to all of the food aggregators. If you're not, you can hit regenerate, similar to how you do with ChatGPT, and it will produce a new description for you. And you can keep doing that as often as you want until you get the right sounding description for your brand DNA, and off to the races it goes. So we launched that, beta customers only, and we've seen a tremendous amount of adoption. People are using it to save many, many hours as far as creating new menu items or changing existing menu items. We've since taken that into what I believe is the world's first restaurant co-pilot. And I think the word co-pilot today has been largely established as the syntax for AI-assisted human work. And our view with this restaurant co-pilot, which we're dubbing Genie, and I think you might be the very first podcast I've ever mentioned this on. So I think the marketing guys may shoot me after this, but nonetheless, we're going to be launching the world's first restaurant co-pilot called Genie. And think of a world where a restaurateur, regardless of size, so whether it's Burger King or Moe's shawarma shop, can open up an application on their phone and simply, with natural language, converse about their business. It's like having a restaurant consultant in your back pocket. How are my sales this week versus last week? What are my best selling items? What are my worst selling items? What are my best margin selling items? How were my reviews yesterday on Deliveroo? What are the recipes that get the best reviews? What are the recipes that get the most complaints? What is my average delivery time? How can I make my business better? And using the large language models like ChatGPT-4 and others, we've been able to combine the best of breed, build this massive prompting engine and a really slick display for restaurateurs to have that application on their phone, talks to their first-party data, i.e. their business transactional and operational data, as well as third-party data such as reviews, the Google Maps competitive landscape around their 15-kilometer radius, and other data points to help them make smarter decisions. And again, that is being polished up as we speak and should be in beta customers' hands in the next couple of weeks. So we're really, really excited about this piece.
Wow, how cool is that? And we're talking about AI, generative AI, and I think we're only just starting to understand the art of the possible and reimagine an entire industry. I'm curious, if you were to look into the future, how do you think this technology will further reshape the F&B industry?
Look, I'm a big believer that one of the holy grails everybody's after, regardless of industry, is hyper-personalization at scale. Everybody's realizing that one size fits all is just not good, right? Whether it's the medical community, why is the same antibiotic dose given to somebody who's 95 kilograms to somebody who's 60 kilograms with different genes and the likes of. And it's the same thing when it comes down to food. We understand that food is medicine. We understand that, everybody has different dietary requirements, potentially different allergies and different lifestyle goals. So in a world where we're all walking around with smartphones, capturing data on how many steps we walk, how many calories we burned at the gym that morning, and what our dietary requirements are, how do we bring that to the ordering for lunch or for dinner or for breakfast? And being able to control macros and ingredients of our recipes in such a personalized level and have that executed by the restaurant and delivered in under 20 minutes, I think is the ultimate holy grail for restaurants or hospitalities together. And I think AI is the key that will unlock that journey. And you will just be able to process so much data in a short period of time and be able to pass that data around from one system to the next to be able to unlock that capability.
And just moving away from AI for a moment, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the true value of cloud POS, and how is Grubtech leveraging this too?
Yeah, so I mean, as with any evolution of technology, the first set of points to sale solutions were on-prem. I mean, basically that meant the server lived in the restaurant. And restaurants are very harsh environments, right? There's heat, there is grease, there is a lot of foot traffic, and the maintenance and cost structures of having servers and maintaining these servers in restaurants was just not the smart. It was the best that we had at the time, but obviously today is a very different world. So the new wave of points of sale providers came with the cloud concept, i.e., most of the servers, processing power is in the cloud, whether it's AWS or Google or Azure or many others. And what you had on the counter was a client, similar to an iPad or an Android tablet. And as long as you had internet connectivity, you're able to transact. But what this will allow for, you future-proof. So anytime there's a new piece of technology or a new security protocol or even new legislation like GDPR, for example, that comes your way, you're almost instantly compatible or compliant because your POS provider can just make that change into the cloud, and then downstream everything works. And then obviously you're leveraging the best of breed as far as security protocols, speed, uptime, and all the other KPIs that you would get with a cloud point of sale. So the short answer to your question is you're future-proofing your business by moving to the cloud. Now, the precursor or the prerequisite to moving to the cloud is making sure that you have a viable internet connectivity, because it does mean that your point of sale needs to speak up and down frequently. And if you have any kind of disruption, of course, our point of sale has offline capabilities, so it can go offline for a few days if you're having an internet outage issue. And once you resync, it goes back up, but it's only a few days. If you lose internet connectivity for, let's say, a month, for example, you're going to have some problems. But, as everything moves towards cloud, whether it's cloud computing, hosting of data and the rest of the hospitality industry has seen their point of sale solutions now move towards cloud POS versus on-prem POS.
And what we're talking about here today is how technology is not only future-proofing restaurants, but also enabling them to adapt and evolve continuously and to bring to life everything that we're talking about here. Can you tell me a little bit about how Grubtech is empowering both new and existing restaurants, and maybe a few success stories just to bring it all to life?
Yeah, sure. So, first issue or first problem for the hospitality industry we tackled was really trying to streamline their delivery operations, moving away from multiple tablets and allowing the restaurant to be able to adopt any new commerce channel without an undue burden on their operational or their technical budgets. So one of our leading products, which is G Online, is a middleware that sits on top of whatever the restaurant has on the counter, and make it speak to all of these sales channels seamlessly without the restaurant having to accept on a tablet, print out the order, then go to their point of sale, key it in again, and have that, work its way into the kitchen. And a good success story of that would be about Burger King. We recently took Burger King in the UAE live with this product across 4 or 5 different food aggregators across 120 locations, I want to say, and you can instantly feel the efficiency. The time to delivery collapsed by at least 25%. So on average, they were delivering food in, let's say, 45 minutes. Now they're delivering it in 30. The error margin, because you don't have to manually enter that order into a point of sale, is near zero. Failed orders dropped by almost 82%, and the list goes on and on and on. So it allows them to accept multiple commerce channels directly into their point of sale, removing all human intervention from that order life cycle. And really, the payback period is less than 3 or 4 days for what we charge for it. So it's a win-win-win. And the customer who's receiving the Whopper meal is happy, the restaurant chain is happy, and obviously Grubtech has been able to, create a success story out of that for them.
And away from the customer expectations, or probably a part of this too, really, another big focus, another big change is things like ESG scores and transparency around sustainability in the industry. So how are things like enhanced analytics aiding in preventing things like greenwashing across the F&B industry? Because again, it's a subject that seems to be gathering momentum right now.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest margin eroder for a restaurant business is wastage. And basically, it's the food that they throw away at the end of the night for not being sold. And obviously, it goes without saying that's environmentally damaging. And this primarily happens as a result of poor forecasting, i.e., the restaurant not being able to plan their sales for the next day or potentially even the next week effectively. And that comes because of either disparate systems and they can't see their business as a whole box, or they're using, antiquated systems such as, managing their procurement over Excel. And with better analytics and better AI-driven analytics and those siloed systems working in harmony using a software like Grubtech, you're able to do so much better as far as forecasting. And two things happen here. When you can forecast your sales well, you can dial in your procurement, i.e., you don't miss another sale because you're out of stock. And we've all experienced ordering something from a restaurant only to get a call a couple minutes later saying, sorry, we're out of it. And more importantly, you don't throw away the short shelf life or produce at the end of the day in the garbage because you bought it, but nobody ordered it. And that ultimately has downstream effects on, climate impact and obviously sustainability. So a better data using AI gives you the ability to forecast smarter. And if you can forecast smarter, you don't lose your sales and you don't throw away your hard-earned money in procurement. So that's the short sum of it as far as hospitality is concerned.
And as we said at the very beginning of our conversation, we are recognizing and moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach. And something we've not talked about here is the role that culture plays in food preferences and taste, such an important topic. And as Grubtech is now spreading to many different countries, I'm curious, how are you adapting your services to different culture consumerisms and tastes? And again, is it things like ChatGPT, LLMs that will help you on that journey or something else?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing that we had to contend with was, and Grubtech kind of grew out of Dubai, but now has customers in 18 countries, I think. And, first and foremost was localizing our software. So making sure our software carried the same, local language, tax authority compliance, and nuances of that particular culture to ensure that our users interacted with our system in a seamless manner. The second thing that you rightfully pointed out is as these brands that we do business with expand their operations in multiple jurisdictions, one of the key common issues that we hear is, well, we can't source shiitake mushrooms in country X. We need to substitute it, or that's not culturally conducive to our operation. We need to modify pork for a business in Saudi Arabia, for example. And typically what we've seen is the executive chef would toil over a menu of, let's say, 25, 30 items with recipes of, 150, 200 ingredients, omitting and delicately exchanging these ingredients in a recipe to maintain the same consistency, but to be also culturally compliant. What we've seen is large language models, ChatGPT and others, being able to make these substitutions and maintain the consistency of the recipe and create a culturally compliant recipe in clicks of a button. And one of the executive chefs we spoke to, without mentioning the brand, said it cut that task from 6 months to 3 minutes. And we're still in the early innings, right? I mean, we're just still, trying to dabble and see and where we can bring a lot of these use cases to light. But absolutely, the adjustment of a recipe for cultural nuances and or procurement capability using large language models is a real reality for us. Absolutely.
And it blows my mind in just 8-9 months, how ChatGPT is changing everything. And you've got some great examples today for menu optimization, content creation, and also showing nutritional value, etc. I'm conscious or curious, when you're speaking to your customers and your clients, what's the reception been when you present these opportunities and a new way of doing things? Has it been largely positive?
Absolutely. They usually, when we present, and we have a small beta group that we always keep close and we chat with on what we're building or what we're scratching our heads on. Yeah. The immediate first reaction is, when are we going to get our hands on it? There is an absolute thirst for this pain relief through AI that they can't wait for. So the adoption is yet to be seen, as there are a lot of restrictions on these AI models, whether it's on capacity or speed or simply cost. But as all of these deflationary elements are coming into play, we are seeing, or at least hopeful, that adoption is also going to follow suit. But as far as the appetite of the restaurateurs to bring in this technology into their day-to-day, it is bona fide there, 100%.
And I think that is quite apparent as well with the immense growth of Grubtech over the last 3.5 years. So I've got to ask, where do you go from here? What's next on the horizon? Are there any future developments or features or anything any teasers you might be able to leave us with about what we can expect in the future?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, we have a few customers in Europe, and we recognize the similarities of the business model that we built out here in the GCC or in EMEA and Southeast Asia, and how attractive it is to the European market. So actually, over the next few months, my job is to secure our office in Europe, and we're debating between London, Amsterdam, or Barcelona, and there's furious fights happening in the conference rooms on, which weather is more conducive to folks from Dubai versus the cost of living and obviously the talent. And it's yet to be decided, but I think what is in the cards for us is an office in Europe very soon.
And as a Brit, I think Barcelona sounds the most tempting of that. I'll probably
me too. Me too. I like waterfronts. So, Barcelona is my vote, but let's see how it pans out.
And for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Grubtech, about everything that we've talked about today, maybe keep up to speed with developments or even contact your team if there's anybody around the world listening wanting to find out more. Where's the best place to find everything?
Yeah, look, I mean, please stop by our website, grubtech.com, grubtech.com, or find me on LinkedIn or the company's page on LinkedIn. We post regularly on all of our, chin scratching ideas, and we'd love to hear some of the feedback from your audience, and looking forward to talking to them.
Well, I think this year, generative AI and artificial intelligence has run the risk of becoming somewhat of a buzzword. But what I've loved about chatting with you today is learning more about real-world impacts on the F&B industry, how it's transforming it, how it's future-proofing restaurants, how you're empowering entrepreneurs and existing restaurants, and how it's ultimately reshaping end-to-end restaurant management. That is the pure gold here, the real problems that we're solving. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to tell the Grubtech story.
And that wraps up our enlightening conversation with today's guest, the founder of Grubtech, and Mo's insights into the F&B industry and the integration of technology within it are truly mind-blowing, aren't they? It's been an education for me learning about AI's impact on our everyday experiences, our behaviours and expectations as customers, and how Grubtech is facilitating the digital transformation of this industry. Incredibly cool. So if you want to find out more about Grubtech and Mo's journey, head over to Grubtech's website or check out Mo's LinkedIn platform, where he shares interesting insights and clips from panels and events that he's spoken at too. And if you've got anything you want to add to this, because we've covered a lot in a short amount of time, if you want to add anything to today's conversation, email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @Neil C. Hughes. If you want to carry on this conversation, or if you've got a question, if you want to come on the podcast, you want to work with me, any of those things, email or send me a DM and we'll get that conversation going. But that's it for today. So please stay tuned for more insightful conversations here on Tech Talks Daily, where every day we uncover the intersections of technology with our daily lives and the impacts on our business, etc. But please stay curious, stay inspired, keep exploring the limitless world of technology. But more than anything, thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.